What's up? I'm Trevor, and this is Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk about all things BYU, Big 12, college football, realignment, all of that good stuff. And if you like that stuff, then please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel to follow for more content. And if you are, in fact, a fan of BYU, then you are well aware that the Holy War is being revived in conference this year in the Big 12, and that it has been scheduled, but not for rivalry weekend when everybody anticipated that final game of the season, that Thanksgiving weekend when BYU and Utah have traditionally played when they've been in the same conference. Since then, in Independence, it's been played at the beginning of the season. They even had a bowl game. It's been all over the place, but everybody was excited to have this rivalry renewed in conference finally, with really having a lot at stake, whether it's in conference championship or getting to a bowl game or getting to the playoff, whatever it is. It feels like the stakes are always higher, that the season builds and culminates to a point where these two rivals, these bitter in-state rivals, now in the same conference, get to play each other in that last game. And then even when one school is having a down year, they could play spoiler for the other, and the games are almost always good, always within a score, it feels like. And so I think, generally speaking, fans of BYU, I assume Utah as well, were really anticipating having this game at the final game of the season. Now, having said all that, we know with the schedule coming out, that's not when it will be. And I at first was pretty confused, disappointed. I think a lot of fans of the two schools were. And so I posted a video talking about BYU's schedule earlier this week. And on Twitter, we got a response, and somebody came on and walked through the argument as to why the game is better played when they have it scheduled. And so I want to go through, take a look at the tweets and the comments there, and break down that argument. Because when I recorded my initial video, I think I said something to the effect of Big 12, wants to get better ratings, and they don't want to play the game on a crowded rivalry weekend. They think they can get ratings on another day, and that's kind of at the crux of the argument here. But he goes into a little bit more detail outlining it. So let's switch over and take a look at what he wrote. All right, so here was our post on Twitter for our last video, and while you're liking and subscribing on YouTube, go ahead and follow us on Twitter as well, at SatsWarriorBYU. But here, the comment came from GCFM 1972. And so let's go through. He's got a four or so responses here. He says, think OU-UT bye week before the biggest rivalry game of the year for the Big 12. 2 weeks to promote the game. It will land on ABC or Fox instead of ESPN or ESPN2. Holy War, 2 weeks of market this game. Both have bye weeks before it. It will get ABC, Fox, primetime, not ESPN, ESPN2. Okay, so yes, it is a traditional rivalry game to have OU and Texas play earlier in the season, because they play at the Texas State Fair and they play in that neutral territory, and that is how a long-standing tradition and rivalry. Now, I see the point. You can market it for 2 weeks. Well, actually, let's keep going before I comment too much further. But he says it gives both BYU and Utah the time to recover from a loss to still try and make a bid for the CFP. Instead of one losses, the winner gets in and the loser tossed out. This season, Utah has a great chance to make the CFP, even as a non-Big 12 champ. Losing that game, end of November, hurts them. I think that's a fair point there, one that I hadn't mentioned previously. Take rivalry glasses off, hard to do, and think what's best for the Big 12. I think this rivalry is what's best for the Big 12. So whatever's best for the rivalry, but let's go with it. having a big time rivalry game that lands on ESPN2 or ESPN at best, or having it be its own thing on ABC, Fox. Having two teams make the CFP or just one. Utah losing last game in November this season is worse than early November. The Big 12's goal is better TV ratings and getting more than just the conference champ into the CFP. The Big 12 is not all about BYU-Utah like the WAC Mountain West was. It's about getting more than one team in the CFP and also getting high TV ratings to promote for the next media deal. So there's a lot there. I think he first touches upon the obvious thing, which is, yes, if you get a rivalry of this magnitude on a game that's not chock full of other major rivalries, like the game Michigan-Ohio State, you get the Iron Bowl, all of them throughout the day, then, let's say BYU is, another middling season, maybe 6 wins. Maybe this game does not get promoted as highly as some of these others. And so if they're on an earlier week when there's not other major rivalry games, this can really be blown out. Okay, and this helps with ratings and helps, as that final comment said, with the next TV deal. But what I like here with this point is it's true that when they say, oh, the regular season has to count, the arguments against the playoff, every game should count, but it's always been that losses later in the season hurt more. I mean, you look at Alabama this last season losing to Texas earlier on in the season, and they had a chance to kind of put that on the back burner and just continue to win. And all of a sudden that one loss doesn't look so bad. Whereas if Texas, I know they weren't in conference at the time, but let's just say that Texas-Bama game had been the last game of the season, and Bama has that loss. And then all of a sudden, even though Texas is a good team and they're also going to the playoff, all of a sudden I think it's harder for Bama to make that argument to get into the playoff, which Florida State would have been happy about, but that is a completely different discussion. So it's true. Losing a little bit earlier in the season gives teams time to kind of regroup and kind of help the committee and voters kind of put that loss out of their mind and focus on the good that the team has done. So that is assuming, that either one of these teams has a chance to get into the playoff. But it sounds like the Big 12 is banking on these teams, BYU and Utah, at least being in the mix in the conference going forward using that logic. So again, I still think taking the rivalry glasses off, you can't, because this rivalry is so big and the conference has so few major rivalries, especially losing the Red River rivalry. We already talk about all the other schools from the Big 12 that have left over the years, breaking apart rivalries like the Border War and the Texas and A&M, and that being played on Thanksgiving. And so it's hard to remove that, and we really want what's best for that rivalry. But if the conference feels that having this game played on a different weekend where it can really be highlighted and advertised and get the types of ratings on a network like ABC or Fox versus being stashed away on ESPN2, that can only improve the image for the conference. So it does seem like they have a plan for this game, and I buy into this argument that that's got to be what the conference has in mind. And I just, it's still hard to see, that game not being played at the end of the season. And I know that the Big 12 hasn't really had rivalry weekend for a long time because they've lost a lot of those rivalries. But for me, I was like, but this is your chance to get it back and build that up and have those rivalries and have it be meaningful. But I'm open-minded to this. I think no matter what, BYU and Utah are in conference together and playing each other every year for the foreseeable future, regardless what Kyle Whittingham says. So I am happy about that. Talking about rivalries in the Big 12. So we have the Kansas State being played in October, and then We have TCU, Baylor, what used to be the Rivalry in the week prior to BYU-Utah. They both have a bye week beforehand, so they can get healthy, rest up a little bit, and play for that big matchup. And then the only one of these protected rivalries is Arizona and Arizona State being played on that traditional rivalry weekend. My guess is that they will be that kind of nightcap, the kind of 10:15 Eastern kickoff time after a weekend full of rivalry matchups. But also we've got Kansas State and Iowa State, I believe, also being played on rivalry weekend day. So I don't know what the plan is there, but it does look like the Big 12 wants a lineup of several weeks in a row of major rivalry games and really getting more of a marquee matchup each week. So it does seem like it's very deliberate. There's a plan in place, and that the Big 12 really wants to take advantage, understanding that a lot of the ratings are going to the Big Ten and SEC, and they got to do something to set themselves apart. So I do appreciate the effort to really stand apart and do something a little bit different, innovative. That's what the conference has really hung its hat on. And so on that regard, I'm with Brett Yormark and the conference and trying to really capitalize on it, and I really hope it pays off because it really is weird to think about this game not being played on rivalry weekend. All right, so what do you think? Are you on board with this new innovative plan for the Big 12 to try to get better ratings for the conference and not having all of its marquee rivalries played on rivalry weekend? Or are you in the camp of that doesn't matter? This is one of the marquee rivalries in college football. It should be played on rivalry weekend. I'm kind of coming around to the argument. I think there are a lot of good points as to why it's not being played on that weekend. I just hope that it pays off. What do you think? Do you think it will pay off? Do you think it'll be worth it? Or do you think this is a mistake by the Big 12? Let me know in the comments. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe. And as always, go Cougs!